What's up, your boy? For another reaction. In today's video, we have the worst season in Premier League history, the 2020 season by Dan Lee. What's that group right now? I feel like I'm old.
I feel like this season's really been criticised for being considered a bad season in the Premier League. I think I
That was when that nigga Grealish just came out of nowhere. That nigga Grealish had a good year this season.
disagree. In terms of gameplay, I can definitely
That was before he turned into a robotic winger. When he was at Aston Villa, he was actually good.
see it. It feels like we're getting 50 minutes of actual gameplay. It's very set piece driven. I guess players are so restricted to their team's systems. There's not really a lot of individual brilliance or moments. But I feel like gameplay alone is only one piece of the puzzle if we're crowning a season the worst season of all time. Because I think if we do that, we have to apply more
Arsenal was terrible that season.
criteria. So here's my criteria for awarding the worst season of all time. Firstly is poor gameplay, but secondly is a lack of competitiveness within the league. No relegation battle or no title race, and the top four is pretty decided. Third is a lack of world-class talent playing week to week. So that could be through injuries, or maybe it's just a down year in the Premier League. Fourth is anything to do with VAR. So it could be a rule change with VAR that fucks the league for a little bit. And then finally is corporate greed. So that could be UEFA pulling some bullshit, or the FA getting greedy, or maybe owners just breaking FFP. So with this criteria, I kind of went back through my recent memory and thought which season ticked every one of these boxes. And there was really only one season that came to mind, the 2020/21 season. So let's go back in time and take a look at this season and see if it really was that bad. So it all started in March 2020. It was still the 1920 season, but it just got suspended because the UK went into lockdown because of COVID.
Good evening. The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades.
The FA, Premier League, EFL, Barclays FA Women's Super League and FA Women's Championship have collectively agreed to postpone the professional game in England until the 3rd of April at the earliest, taking steps to isolate their players and staff because of the COVID-19 virus.
And then for a minute, it looked like the league was just going to finish. However, we both know there's too much money in the Premier League for that to happen. So 3 months later, they resumed the 1920 season, just in stadiums without fans. Liverpool went on to win that season, but I feel like without any fans in stadiums, it fell a little bit flat. That is what it is. So anyway.
Now I feel like them niggas was way more locked in with no fans. I ain't gonna lie.
That season ends, and usually players get the summer to recover, rest, or literally do whatever they want. However, this season it was different. Since the season got suspended for a little bit, it ended in late July. So players only had 6 weeks to come back in September. And see, that's an issue because obviously they don't have enough time to recover and they're way more susceptible to injuries, which is something we'll clearly see throughout the season. So then finally, September 12th rolls around and the season starts. And you'd really hope fans would be back in the stadiums at this point, but obviously it was peak COVID, so stadiums are still empty. It's a bit shit, but you can kind of accept it if broadcasters acknowledge this fact. But what made it so much worse was Sky Sports pumping fake random background noise, completely out of sync with the game, making everything feel so much more awkward than it needed to be. As games started to play, there was a glaring issue in the Premier League, and that came in the form of VAR. So last season, the league introduced VAR. We're pretty used to it, but first time around, it is a pretty hard concept to grasp. I mean, you can score a goal, then celebrate, then the referee goes upstairs for 5 minutes just to disallow the goal for some bullshit they made up on the spot. Kind of see why it wasn't very popular. Anyway, in the 2021 season, there were 123 VAR overturns. That's about a third of all league matches where VAR made a decision that altered the outcome of a game. Which, I mean, in theory is fine. The issue is the right decision was rarely made. Every minute detail is now scrutinized. And half of this shit is subjective. So there's going to be inconsistencies. So now instead of one subjective decision made by one referee, it's now about 50 subjective decisions. Like, what was the intentions of the right back, who pushed the winger on the complete other side of the pitch? Did he grab his arm a bit too hard? Is it stopping a goal-scoring opportunity? That kind of stuff is now in play, and that kind of ruins games a little bit. But this season, VAR was especially bad when it came to offsides, because it really felt, week to week, what constituted as offside changed. Just to give you one example, this goal for Wolves at Fulham was disallowed because it was considered offside. I mean, 9 times out of 10, that goal has been given. Like, I'm pretty sure he's onside. But it's that kind of stuff that really ruined the season in terms of VAR. So by the part of last season and the first team game week, we kind of got a feel for how games are being played without fans in stadiums. And you'd kind of think an advantage of that would be that you're getting the purest form of football. So now...
Yeah, niggas be locked in. I'm telling you, no fans, son. Niggas just playing.
all the
No niggas yelling and heckling.
inputs around you, distracting you from the game you're currently playing, are now gone. So you can just play complete free, clear of mind football. However, what we got was statistically slow, unpredictable football. So I cherry-picked some stats about football without fans in stadiums. There was a whole paper done. For the first time in history, away win percentage was greater than home win percentage. The home side winning 37% of the time, and the away side winning 39% of the time, which is quite a cool stat. But what's more interesting is that home teams held more possession of the ball. However, it didn't convert to more wins. They were creating nothing with a lot more slow, aimless build-up play. And it kind of just emphasizes how flat the games felt. I mean, going to the eye test, games did almost lose their character. I mean, teams like Newcastle, who really get behind the crowd to show their stylistic identity and really win those gritty games at home, they kind of, I guess, lost that, which makes the games feel a lot more flat. It really kills the idea of what football is to a lot of people. Also, this has nothing to do with the quality of the season. I just thought it was quite cool. No crowds meant there was far less pressure on refereeing decisions. In previous seasons, there were more yellow cards given to away teams, but this season, more yellow cards were given to the home team. So now at this point of the season, it was October, and clearly we got a feel for how the games are being played on the field. But what really deteriorated this season for me was the issues off the field. It was these constant cash grabs that the Premier League tried to pull to turn a profit without fans in stadiums that really put it off for me. Their first cash grab was their new pay-per-view scheme. So essentially, they just try to copy the model of boxing. For games that weren't nationally televised, they'd make them available to watch. However, every game you wanted to watch was £15. So in an economy where 1.9 million jobs are impacted
God damn, that bitch. UK was dead as a bitch. Damn.
due to COVID, they try to charge you £15 to watch one game. 10 beers at Wetherspoons for one game. And quite obviously, every team in the Premier League was heavily in favour. It went to a vote and it won 19-1. With Leicester City being the only team saying no. For the Premier League teams, I definitely understand it. I mean, they still have to make money. They have wages to pay, transfer fees, whatever. But I mean, this model was so universally hated. Fans went and protested, and they ended up raising £300,000 for charity, which is quite cool. So by December, they scrapped the entire thing. But this wasn't really the only cash grab this season, because I wanted to talk about gambling sponsors. And just to preface this section, this isn't solely related to the 2021 season. I just feel like the 2021 season kind of marked a milestone of the rise of gambling in the Premier League. In the 05-06 season, there was one team with a gambling shirt sponsor. Fast forward to the 2021 season.
Well, just quarantine, but that was a time though. Fucking COVID was really crazy. Like, we ain't never seen no damn fucking disease. God
There were 8 teams with a gambling shirt sponsor. All but 4 teams had some sort of gambling company sponsoring them that season. A total of £70 million was paid to teams.
Oh my gosh, this was that era 2020. That was when niggas was having, what they call them shits, crypto punks, NFTs. That shit was a scam. Them NFT millionaires, where y'all at? Them NFT niggas, where y'all at? And to the NBA players that was buying them shits, like, didn't Stephen Curry have an NFT profile picture? This was putting NFTs as their profile picture. That shit was a profit. Y'all still made money off those?
From gambling sponsors, reaching record sponsorship revenue. In my opinion, I'm not here to argue the ethics of gambling. We can just call it a morally ambiguous area. But what I feel like we can all agree on, to a large extent, the Premier League is marketed towards kids, and that in turn indoctrinates them. I mean, when I think of the Premier League as a kid, I think of LG, maybe Emirates or Samsung. I guess I'd hate to think about Bet365 or Stake. So after all this, we reached the January transfer window. Because the season started late, they had to cram 38 games into fewer game weeks, meaning more midweek fixtures on top of cups and Europe. You can just see the pile up here. Match weeks on December 12th, then December 16th, then the 19th, then Boxing Day, December 28th, and January 2nd. So that's about 6 match weeks in about 3 weeks. So because of this, injuries were coming up everywhere. I mean, just to list off a few, Van Dijk did his knee, Joe Gomez did his knee, Aguero did his knee, De Bruyne did his hamstring, and Harry Kane did his ankle. So now all of a sudden, half the faces of the Premier League are all out with injuries, and that just completely kills the overall product of the league. And really, I feel like this season really favoured luck. So instead of the best team winning, it was just the teams fortunate enough to not have as many injuries. And I mean, I get that's a factor every season, but I guess I feel like this season more than ever. So by the time we got to April, we finally had the biggest fuck around of the Premier League season, the Super League. On the 18th of April, 2021...
Oh my gosh, I'm happy that shit ain't happened, bro. That Super League shit.
The European Super League was announced.
Football clubs announce new Super League competition. It says 12 of Europe's leading football clubs have today come together to announce they have agreed to establish a new midweek competition, the Super League, governed by its founding clubs.
It was a semi-closed competition designed to generate the biggest clubs more revenue. The idea was that the 12 founding clubs, which were the biggest in the world, guaranteed a place every year. And then a couple other spots were given if clubs performed well domestically. The whole premise of it was meant to rival the Champions League. And instead of having
Yeah, I'm happy they didn't do this shit. That shit was stupid.
to wait for the knockouts to see big games, you could get Arsenal Bayern and Liverpool Madrid on a random Wednesday night in October. So the Premier League teams in this Super League were the big six, and then teams in Europe, you could just probably guess who was in the Super League. But immediately when this was announced, Europe erupted. Fans went on the streets to protest. UEFA started threatening consequences. Even the UK government got involved. Which, I mean, makes sense. You're essentially just screwing the Premier League. There is suddenly zero pressure for the Big Six to perform domestically. No matter what, they're still raking in billions from the Super League. So they'll start caring less about the Premier League, treat it like a joke, while still having 100 times the value of every other Premier League club. But this idea only lasted 2 days because clubs immediately received so much backlash that they just pulled out. What really killed the fun of the season for me was the lack of story. Because by early March, the league had pretty much been decided. First place Manchester City were already 15 points clear of second, and it was only a matter of weeks before it was mathematically guaranteed. Clearly that sucks that there isn't a good title race, but I guess what really annoys me is, I guess there could have been, maybe. Because Liverpool had their spine ripped out through injuries. Both Matip and Van Dijk were out for a long time with injuries. And I'm not saying they would have won the league, but Liverpool had a really slow start to the season, and it's pretty hard to come back from that without a defense. And then looking at other teams around the top four, they just weren't as competitive as City. I mean, Chelsea and United were just off it that season. But I will say, to this season's credit, the top four race was great. We had surprises like West Ham with Jesse Lingard completely overperforming. Even
Oh my god, Jesse Lingard, bro. That nigga in China now.
Leicester City did really well, even winning the FA Cup, which I thought was great. Then looking down the league, Spurs had a pretty rough season. I mean, the appointment of Mourinho clearly wasn't the right decision. But not only that, they lost Harry Kane for a lot of the season with injuries. And whenever that happens, they're usually out of a shot for the top four. Then looking slightly lower down the league, Arsenal
was terrible, bro. It was a joke.
were a complete joke. I mean, fielding a team with David Luiz, you're pretty much asking for it. But even players like Willian and Aubameyang were off it all season. And then Villa, for what they were as a club at the time, they did okay. But I feel like they could have done so much better. But they lost Grealish for a couple of weeks with a shin injury, and that kind of stops them from
That was when that nigga Grealish was nice.
being competitive, because without Grealish, Villa are really bad. Were really bad. Then going all the way down to the relegation battle, there was nothing. There was nothing. Fulham tried to play attractive football, but sucked. West Brom allowed 76 goals that season. And then even Sheffield had 2 points from their first 17 matches, a Premier League record. But I feel like it's not even that. See, they can suck as much as they want, but if it was still close and 17th was still in reach, I would have had fun. I would have enjoyed that. The issue is 17th place Burnley were 11 points ahead of 18th. It's just the bottom three didn't have an ounce of competitiveness. They were just so far off the rest of the league, which is just so annoying. So already no title race. The relegation was done by April. I guess there was really just not a lot of the games in the Premier League for me to be excited to watch. Because I'm in Australia. Like, I figure up at 3 if I want to watch a good game. And there's not really a point when there's not a lot riding on each game. I guess the most enjoyable part was Chelsea winning the Champions League. But just the whole top 4 race alone was really fun to watch. And credit to that. I did really enjoy that. I guess summarizing this season, to me it really represented greed. Owners willing to sacrifice the integrity of the league to profit as much as possible in a dire time, I guess. If it
you knew we were talking about some super league. Like, what the fuck?
was putting players at an increased risk of getting injured, to trying to kill off smaller clubs with the Super League, putting gambling sponsors in front of kids. It was these little efforts to try to turn a profit, which really put a sour taste looking at this season. Like, I feel like I can deal with a shit title race or a shit relegation battle, but the issue was it was brought upon by injuries due to a poor schedule, due to the owners and FA trying to turn a profit on the Premier League. I just felt there were parts that weren't the best compared to other seasons. I'd love if you let me know what your favorite season.
Yeah, niggas. It's just niggas was money hungry this season. Niggas was trying to make money because quarantine. Like,
Season was, why this
no fans at the game. That's how a lot of teams make money. Fucking ticket sales.
Season was actually good. I don't know. Just I'd love your feedback, criticisms, comments. I really enjoy making this stuff. So thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, have a good one.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all juice is good video.